Hey there, it's Denise. Welcome back if you've watched my channel before, and welcome if you've never watched my channel. So I'm about to set off on my biggest adventure yet. We're talking 344 miles going from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh on the Gap and C&O Trail. So I'm so excited. There's been a lot going on, a lot to work up to this. That's why you haven't seen me much on YouTube, because I've just been putting all my energy into getting my bike ready, getting myself ready, getting everything ready to do this, because guess what? I've never done anything like this before. And it's getting really close to time for me to leave. So I want to show you what the bike looks like. In this video, I'm also going to talk about the trip and kind of how we prepped for the trip. So let's get it started. So one of the things I'll tell you right off the bat, I took my bike in to get a major service. It needed it. I ended up getting new housing for my brakes, new housing for my gears. They ended up having to put a new cassette on the back because mine was all worn, and I got a new chain. So those are things that are brand new. I really wanted them to look it over with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that I'm not going to have any mechanical issues on the trails. Another thing I got, oh man, I love these pedals. So these are Deities, and I am not a clip-in, I'm not a clipless. I'm on and off the bike so much. I don't want to be clipped in. So I'm a flat pedal person. These are great. They're wide. They have super grip on them. They actually have given me a little more oomph climbing, which is really fun because climbing's hard in flat pedals. All right. So next, when I had my brakes looked at, I just had everything looked at, and you know what? This thing is just purring. It sounds so good. It sounds better than it's ever sounded. All right, let's talk bike packing gear, because I went out on a test ride, and I'll tell you, I recorded some things on it, but I'm an idiot and forgot to, or I put it in slow-mo. Sorry. Anywho, so we'll go over it now. So one of the big things I bought before this trip was this. It's called the Catalyst bag, and the reason why I chose this one, there's a lot of big bike packing bags out there. I went with Swift Industries. They put out this new bag. It's called the Catalyst, and I have really narrow handlebars because I got fit for my bike, and this is the best setup for my back. So I've got narrow handlebars. So I got the Catalyst. It is actually bigger than you think. I have a lot of stuff in there. It's expandable. It's great. So another thing that I got from Swift Industries as well is these cool little sidekick feeder bags. So I'll be able to put phones and just all kinds of goodies in there, and snacks. Snacks are very important because, you know, it's a feed bag. So that's one of the big things. I'm still rocking the Ortlieb's panniers in the back. I have not switched to a full bike packing setup. This trip is honestly too big. I've got too much gear. I am going with my heavier sleeping bag, just because better safe than sorry on the heavier sleeping bag. So in here, I've got everything. I'll go through what's in there later, but for now, just know that we are camping. So these panniers are completely full of camping gear. Everything we need to stay overnight, plus clothing, all that jazz. So that's what the bike looks like, and it's ready to roll. The test ride did really well. I'm getting balancing down on the back so that I'm not so heavy on one side or the other. Super happy with it. Can't wait to roll out. So yeah, so we leave very soon, and I'm super stoked. So the weather is going to be really nice, comparable to what we thought it was going to be after Ida came through. That's Tropical Storm Ida. If you happen to watch this like later on, yeah, Tropical Storm Ida dumped onto the C&O Gap Trail. I talk about it a little bit in another section. So yeah. Anywho, so we're ready to go on the Gap Trail. and C&O Trail. We are driving to Pittsburgh, taking the Amtrak to DC, and then biking back to Pittsburgh. It is going to be a blast. I can't wait. And if you want to follow the adventure, I am not going to be posting on YouTube daily vlogs or a couple of day vlogs. I am going to wait and produce all that when I get home, when I can get the footage off the GoPro and you know, just make it nice. But what I am going to do is I'll be posting on Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, it's Denise Looking Out or Denise G on Instagram. You'll find me on there. There's also a link in my YouTube to my Instagram. So I'll post a lot on there, hopefully, as I have service. All right, so let me tell you about what it all took to make this trip happen. So I'm actually using the trail guide for the Gap and C&O from 2019. Well, it was the 2020 guide for when we were going to do it, because we were going to do it in May of 2020, and the new guide wouldn't have come out until June or July, I think. So using this as a guide, kind of looked at some of the updates, but a lot of the stuff is the same. So it's a great guide. It breaks down everything. It breaks down itineraries, trip planning. It goes through it section by section on the Gap and C&O, so you can look at each section individually to make some decisions. And so I really use this as a guide as we were kind of thinking about and planning this trip. Okay, so some of the logistics to make this happen is, okay, we're in Louisville, Kentucky. So we had to find a way to get to either Pittsburgh or Washington, DC, and then travel back here. My friend and I that are riding, Katie, you've seen her on other videos. She's my partner in crime when it comes to biking. She just is up for about anything, so she was definitely up for doing this trail. So we set out and we were like, okay, well, we got to either get to Pittsburgh or DC. Neither of us wanted to put our bikes in boxes and fly to DC. That just didn't make a lot of sense. So what we are doing, sorry, cicadas, they're crazy right now. So what we're doing is we're driving to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is about 6 hours away. So we're driving to Pittsburgh and we're going to take the Amtrak to DC and then bike back to Pittsburgh. There was a lot in that decision-making process. And so there's a group called Great Allegheny Passage and C&O like enthusiast Facebook group. It's been a really great tool for helping to try to plan this trip and seeing what other people are experiencing. But there was also a little bit of negative as far as a lot of people were like, well, why would you go to do the DC to Pittsburgh? Everyone does, you know, Pittsburgh to DC. And we've seen a lot of people doing DC to Pittsburgh. I think it'll be fine. I'm actually excited to do the C&O first and then do the Gap. You know, the C&O has so much more history and it's a canal trail versus the C&O, which is a rail trail. So they're two very different trail systems. So we're very excited to do both. So that's the decision we made. We're going to DC, and actually, so when we get into DC, we're gonna get into the train station, get to the REI, because the REI is where we're picking up our fuel canisters, because guess what? We can't take the fuel canisters on the train. So we already ordered them. They'll be there when we get there to pick them up. So we'll pick up our fuel canisters because we are camping this trip. We are fully loaded with camping gear, everything. What this guide also includes is a handy little map. And this map is amazing because it breaks everything down into the Great Allegheny Passage, or when you go over to the other side, there's the C&O Towpath. And so we're starting in DC, working our way up to Cumberland, Maryland, and then we're going from Cumberland, Maryland to Pittsburgh. That seems like a lot. Yes, it does. 344 miles or so, but you know, it's going to be more. There are detours. We found out there are detours, so we will be taking detours. There will be a hike-a-bike section where we're going to have to hike over a mountain with our fully loaded bikes. We're fully prepared for that. It's good. What are you going to do? I mean, we could take a shuttle around, but I think that, yeah, we're just gonna hike a bike So yeah, so we have our trusty map. The map and guide are coming with us on the trail. One of the things we had to figure out when we get to Pittsburgh, so we got an Airbnb close to the train station because our train leaves at 5:20. And in order to load our bikes, because yes, we did get bike tickets, so our bikes are going on the train with us. And so in order to get to the train station to get our bikes loaded and stuff, we're gonna have to be there a lot earlier than that. So it's gonna be a very early day for us when we arrive or when we leave Pittsburgh to head to Washington, D.C. Right, so one of the things we wanted to plan ahead for is that first day on the trail, because we are coming from Pittsburgh at 5:20 a.m., getting into DC, and Lord knows if the Amtrak is not on time of what that means for us, because unfortunately on the C&O there is not camping for the first some 30 miles. So you should know that going in, that you're gonna have to travel a pretty good distance to find camping right out of the gate. And so because of that, we decided to get an Airbnb in Bethesda. So we are literally riding 8 miles to Glen Echo on the trail. And then once we get to Glen Echo, our Airbnb is there, so we will spend the night there. Takes a lot of the stress and pressure off of us on that first day to only do a little bit of miles and just get our bearings and get our feet wet on the C&O, maybe literally with Ida, I don't know. So we're gonna spend the night there, and then the next day we'll start plugging in the miles. We hope to the second day be able to get to Harper's Ferry, but I will tell you, we have our bookends done. We know we're getting to Pittsburgh on this day and we're starting the trail on this day. The rest of it is all open-ended. We did not book Airbnbs throughout the middle of it. We didn't book campsites throughout the middle of it. What we're doing is we are going to see how many miles we did that day. We do not want to be pigeonholed to a certain amount of miles, because if we're faster than we think we are, and we want to put in more miles, we can't, because we've already committed to a certain night here or there. So we are going to fly by the seat of our pants as far as within the trails on where we stay and how we do it, because we know that certain days we're going to be faster than others. You know, when we get to the Pawpaw Trail and have to climb over a mountain pushing our bikes up, we are going to go ahead and probably make that a shorter day. And then when we get to the Gap and we have to go up 25 miles of incline, even though it's only a 1.5% grade, we know that that's probably going to be a slower day, so we can plan for less miles that day. So we're definitely going to stay flexible, because you don't know what weather's going to do. You don't know what any of the conditions are, especially with you have Tropical Storm Ida that just went through. I'm going to tell you what, that was a huge stressor of trying to plan this trip, knowing that a tropical storm was going through, and when they were talking about what Ida was going to do to the C&O specifically, because the C&O is in a little, I won't say worse shape, but it's in a different state than the Gap, because the Gap is a rail trail and rail trails are just made to take anything. So if Ida was going to come through and just damage the trail so much, we were actually going to have to abandon ship and do another trail. We were thinking about going off and doing a different trail altogether. Luckily, Ida did not destroy the trail systems, so the trails look good. And from what I've seen on the enthusiast Facebook group, a lot of volunteers have been out clearing the trail, clearing debris, clearing down trees, making sure that the footbridges are set in place. So big shout out to them, because they did an amazing job, and we can't wait to be on the trail. So that's all I have for you right now. I'll tell you a little bit more about my gear. Actually, when we're on the trail, I don't want to tell you what gear I'm taking when, if it's something that I'm not going to use, then why did I tell you about it? So yeah, so that's the setup for right now. It's heavily loaded down, but it's going to be an amazing trip. I'm so excited. Okay, we'll see you on the trail. This is the pre-video. Take a look. So yeah, It's gonna be a really fun trip. Super excited. Can't wait. All right, later.